Welcome back to the TRM show. I'm your host, Dave Serafinas. Today, we're going to be talking about the pre-trip approval process. I'm going to do this solo today, so I won't have a guest, but I've had lots of experience on this topic. It surprises me that organizations who have a duty of care to provide and providers in the travel risk management space don't spend a lot of time and attention on a pre-trip approval process. Let me walk down memory lane and explain what I mean. Probably about 18 years ago, I was working with a client who had two fairly new people to the duty of care travel risk management space. And they were tasked with looking after thousands and thousands of international travelers. I mean, they had the basic program in place: medical assistance, security assistance, tracking, itinerary tracking. Um, and we had a discussion one day, and they said, we can't keep up with it. We have people who are booking outside the system. We have people who end up in trouble, and we weren't even aware that they were at a certain location. We just don't have the bandwidth to keep track of all our people traveling. So I started brainstorming with them, and ultimately we came up with an automated pre-trip approval process. And it kind of works like this. You book your flight through your booking tool or travel management company like you always do. This is assuming that you have policies in place that direct the traveler to do that. And we can go off topic here in a second. There are teeth that you can put into a travel policy. The one I like the best is, look, if you don't book through the corporate booking tool or the TMC, you're not going to get reimbursed. That's, in my mind, that's the easiest way to stop that nonsense. An individual books through their booking tool or TMC, but the process actually starts before that, and the policy needs to state that if you're going on a trip, you need to start the pre-trip approval process, which means you fill out a form. I'm going to Rio de Janeiro. I'm a sales guy. I have a client down there I need to meet with. Or perhaps maybe, an operations manager that needs to look after their manufacturing plant or whatever the case may be. So it starts with an online form that you fill out. Now, that form is going to contain lots of information, and it's all, customized to the individual culture of the organization that's running it. In my mind, it would be like, what's your passport number? When does it expire? Oops, forgot about that. It expires in 2 weeks. Thank you for reminding me. Or what's your visa number and what's your expiration date? Oops, didn't even know you needed a visa to go to Brazil. You'd have been sitting there in the airport, not being able to get on the plane. So these are nice to know things to help a traveler understand what they need. In certain locations of Brazil, it's malaria affected, so you need your malaria shots. But you want to also ask questions such as how long you're going to be there. Have you had a security briefing? Will you be needing executive protection? Will you be needing a driver? Now, obviously, a lot of these are predetermined by your security policy, but it'll at least make you aware and think about it. Geez, maybe I should arrange for this, or maybe I should talk to security or my boss about, getting these things in order before I actually stop booking the trip. And there are a lot of other questions you can ask too, like I mentioned before. Maybe have you had a medical briefing? Have you had a security briefing? And depending again, what the company culture is all about, you can ask anything under the sun. Now, this process that I set up, and I believe it was the first system of its kind in the industry, uh, would be sent to different levels of management, obviously to your immediate supervisor. And if it was, for example, a moderate risk environment, obviously it would go to your immediate supervisor, and maybe that would be it. They would approve it. If it was a high risk country, maybe you would go to um, your immediate supervisor plus the director of global security. Um, and if it was an extreme risk country, it might go to those two as well as someone in C-level, maybe legal, human resources, etc. So you want to make sure that you have the appropriate people who are signing off on this particular trip. So everybody goes in wide open, eyes wide open. So the director of global security can say, "Hey, look, let's have a security briefing. Why don't you come to my office? Let's talk about it. Let's get you a driver at the very least, and maybe executive protection." If you listen to my last broadcast podcast, we talked a little bit about who gets executive protection. But once that's all done and everything's approved, then and only then are you allowed to go to your booking tool. Now here's the fun part, because the travel management company plays an important role in this. Because if things happen outside the pre-trip approval process where somebody just doesn't fill out the form, didn't get the memo, doesn't want to do it, whatever the case may be, then it becomes incumbent upon the TMC to drive the process. For example, the TMC will be notified of countries that are extreme risk, high risk, moderate risk, etc., specifically curated by the organization that they're working for. And if somebody's booking a trip to high risk, extreme risk, etc., they will be prompted to look for an approval. So they will stop the process and say, we can no longer go through this booking process until we get an approval form from your organization. And that's the safety net. And that's what stops everything bad from happening. An example of something that could happen in absence of a pre-trip approval process would be, and I mentioned this in my last podcast too, an individual has a manufacturing plant in Mexico. The organization has a manufacturing plant in Mexico. And they're going to go visit that manufacturing plant. However, the individual books a trip to San Diego. Okay. No risk there. But what they intend on doing is then renting a car, driving across the border to Mexico to go see this manufacturing plant or meet colleagues, etc. Obviously, that could be a problem. What we would do is we would classify San Diego as a high-risk location for this particular client. So anytime somebody flew to San Diego, they would be prompted to answer some questions. They would be asked, do you plan on renting a car? Do you plan on driving to Mexico? And then that would start the process of risk mitigation. So it is my opinion and my recommendation that organizations need to put some type of automated pre-trip approval process in place. But, people who provide travel risk management services, you know who you are, should really start to either create something or talk about it more. And that's my 2 cents. Have a good day. Talk to you soon. Bye.